Has a magic card ever captured your attention and filled you with wonder? Perhaps an exquisite illustration gives you a tiny slice of a greater world, or the flavor text of a card elaborates on something mysterious, or maybe even a name piques interest. Whatever it is, your imagination set ablaze as you create the circumstances that explain this piece of cardboard in your mind's eye. For me, that card was Muraganda petroglyphs, a green enchantment printed in the Future Sight set, which not only featured alternate realities, but also hinted at what lay in store through future-shifted cards. These cards referenced new mechanics, card types and planes that hadn't been mentioned before, but represented possibility. The petroglyphs were my first look at the plane of Muraganda, and I was enraptured. From the art that displayed bizarre etchings, to the effect that cared about creatures with no abilities, to the flavor text hinting at mages forsaking their towers to learn ancient secrets in a primordial land. It all amazed me, and left me disappointed. This was back in 2007, nearly 20 years ago, and Muraganda wouldn't be seen again for all that time, outside of a cameo appearance in the Planechase Planar card, Feeding Ground, in 2009. My questions went unanswered. Muraganda existed somewhere in the multiverse, but it remained remote. And perhaps its isolation made it all the more exotic. A plane we knew little about, but that demanded our attention. Finally, Muraganda again made a brief appearance as a plane targeted in New Phyrexia's invasion of the multiverse. And now, in the recently released set Aetherdrift, we see Muraganda as one of 3 planes through which pilots race to achieve victory. Though this brings with it more knowledge and answers, Muraganda still hasn't been the planar host of a complete set in its own right. We're limited in our view of a plane that's ancient, destructive, and beautiful. We'll uncover its secrets as best we can, but many yet linger in the craters and canopies that dot its landscape, as Muraganda remains a mystery. Muraganda is a plane of nature unadulterated. Described as primordial, chaotic, and raw, Muraganda's creatures and landscapes are both violent and deadly. There are many instances of its purity. The creature Imperiosaur can only be cast with basic lands. Muraganda petroglyphs is an anthem only for creatures with no abilities. And a cycle of monocolored vanilla legendary creatures all demonstrate that Muraganda is free of ornamentation. But this wasn't always the case, nor was the plane always in a primitive epoch. Long ago, an ancient civilization spanned the plane, and through discovery of magic, rose to unbelievable heights. It had been far more advanced than any culture since. Knowledge was a double-edged sword. Shortly after it wielded magic's fundamental nature, the civilization collapsed. Though none alive know how or why, the ancient race's fall coincided with the shattering of Muraganda's moons that then plummeted from the sky and roiled the earth. Massive craters, remnants of the moons suspended in the sky, and active moonfalls are the scars of catastrophe. The few survivors of that ancient civilization recorded their history and fate in glyphs scattered throughout Muraganda, etched in rock or on the bark of primeval trees. A byproduct of the collapse came also in the release of vast amounts of magic, a surge in Muraganda's leyline activity that washed across the plane and led to drastic changes in both flora and fauna. As the flavor text of Regal Imperiosaur states, the wide variety of fauna was the result of raw magic, not evolution. Muraganda's mana-infused magic is young and random, spawning a vibrant, ever-shifting landscape filled with bizarre mutations. As generations passed following the ancient civilization's collapse, the moonfalls declined both in frequency and destruction, though they are still an active phenomenon, as illustrated in the card Sky Crash. As for the plane's sentient cultures, centuries of stunted growth and lost wisdom created a void of progress as survivors gathered into bands of nomads or warrior tribes to fight an existential battle against nature. Now, as Muraganda's tumultuous rumblings have subsided, new cultures are rediscovering magic and how to wield it. It represents untapped potential, but also unlimited danger, as echoes of past mistakes still reverberate through fractured ruins. It's impossible to understand Muraganda without knowledge of its most striking fauna, the alien oozes that slink in jungle underbrush and the dinosaurs whose steps add craters to the landscape. Oozes are amorphous blobs of gelatinous slime that consume or corrode anything in their path, often without any form of direction or higher sentience. Oozes are strongest in green and black mana, as these colors represent how such creatures grow from death. Muraganda's oozes are unique in that they take on the characteristics of whatever they absorb. Through this, many of the plane's oozes demonstrate higher intelligence, especially those that have devoured dinosaurs or any of Muraganda's peoples. Not only that, evidence suggests that all oozes are unified in one collective hive mind, directed in a coordinated effort by the plane itself. Like the magical storm known as the Royal on the plane of Zendikar, Muraganda deploys its ooze as a planar defense, a form of immune system to protect the plane's delicate harmony from outside threats. The illustration of March of the World ooze shows many arrayed in an organized fashion, and in its flavor text, the researcher Rashmi states that the fauna here functions as a planar antibody. The origins of oozes are shrouded in myth. Each culture has their own beliefs about the creatures. Some claim they were born deep within Muraganda and slinked to the surface in response to the first casting of magic. Others hold that oozes are associated with the now broken moons. They crashed onto the surface with the first moonfalls and are sustained by each subsequent strike. Yet others believe that they represent the afterlife, the living essence of dead ancestors who retain their memories and who hold veritable ecosystems within their translucent bodies. If we pull up the card Primordial Plasm, which shows a Muragandan ooze defending the plane against outside forces, we hear a different story in its flavor text. Before the Tree of Life branched into predators and prey, there was only shapeless hunger. This would seem to suggest that oozes have been present since nearly the plane's birth, that they far outdate the ancient civilization, the discovery of magic, and the moonfalls. They existed as perhaps the first beings and may even have helped shape the predator-prey dichotomy on Muraganda. Whatever their origins, oozes are both feared and venerated, and the face of the plane. A legendary semi-divine ooze exists in the mimeoplasm, so named because it mimics the shapes and behaviors of whatever it consumes. It's revered by the humanoid dinosaurs known as saurids, who feed to it their deceased elders, which over the generations has greatly expanded its intelligence. The mimeoplasm migrates in an organized fashion and is followed by many of the plane's factions who record dates based on its movements. The second of Muraganda's iconic species are the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are exemplars of the plane's dangerous vitality. They are immense, savage, relentless, beautiful, all things Muraganda itself encapsulates. The saurians of this plane are often larger than those found elsewhere in the multiverse and consumed by an insatiable hunger. Such creatures as the Aganosaur and ancient Imperiosaur demonstrate Muraganda's primordial might and act as its apex predators. As mentioned briefly before, a unique breed of humanoid dinosaurs known as the saurids exist on Muraganda. They retain the aggressive nature of their ancestors while expanding on the dinosaurs' intelligence and foresight. The saurids, as we'll soon see, are a dominant culture on Muraganda. The plane's dinosaurs tend to range in the dense jungles where prey abounds, but can be found throughout various ecosystems. Despite their dominance, the dinosaurs, like all things on Muraganda, are feasts for the oozes that devour them both alive and dead. Other primordial creatures exist on the plane, such as mammoths, massive crocodiles, and many more besides that lend to Muraganda's dangerous beauty. Several cultures, factions, and peoples call Muraganda home. They struggle as much against one another as they do against the aggressive nature that surrounds them. A wide range of humanoid intelligent species thrive on the plane and have developed new civilizations since the ancient ones' collapse. They inhabit the various regions of Muraganda and guard fiercely their borders, their way of life. The Saurid autocracy rules the largest, most centralized power on Muraganda, far to the plane's south. As the name suggests, the dinosaur humanoids known as saurids are the dominant species within this faction, though they also rule over humans, whom they deem inferior and worthy only of peasantry or enslavement. The autarch sits on their throne as supreme ruler, but beneath them exists a complex, rigid caste system, whose stratifications are difficult to overcome. Tyrant families enjoy the pleasures of excess their great wealth brings. Priests and military leaders administer high stations, but the vast majority of subjects within the autocracy fill low labor positions. Beneath even them are the human softskins. Such a structure amplifies injustice and creates selfish, corrupt leadership that preys on the masses. Tyrox the Tyrant is a rogue Saurid immortal within the military whose personal warband gathers renown and resources in spite of the lazy dynasts within the capital. The autocracy continually expands its borders through violence and active strikes against other factions. In fact, their negotiations with the Avishkari of Girapur for the Muragandan Raceway were a thin-veiled grab for more territory. Saurids are deeply religious. They honor the oozes of Muraganda and venerate their dead through sacrificial rites that result in consumption by the amorphous blobs. In this manner, the dead might live on. The Fang Druids hide beneath the canopies and amongst the underbrush of Muraganda's wild jungles, where they live in harmony with nature and honor it through their protective actions. The most noteworthy band of lush verdure is called the Green Hell, which sprouted from titanic craters in the land following destructive magical wars of the past. Both apes and humans are numbered among the Fang Druids, who commune with nature and cultivate its continued growth. This faction is peaceful enough if intruders leave nature alone, but are stirred to violent action if otherwise. Their true purpose isn't well understood, but it seems they protect the slumber of ancient evils on the plane. We hear in Fang Guardian, though the Fang Druids desired peace, the Grand Prix's interference threatened to awaken old dangers on Muraganda. What exactly are these old dangers? Remnants of the ancient civilization, or beasts of immense destruction that have for long slumbered beneath the earth? The illustration of Fang Druid Summoner might give us a small clue. In the background are glyphs etched in the wall that depict the 5 monocolored legendary creatures of Muraganda. Perhaps these creatures are what the Druids wish to keep dormant, as they are referenced as sowing cataclysm. Or perhaps the Druids call on these mythical beasts to defend Muraganda and ensure the ancient dangers slumber. After all, the Druid is summoning these beasts, and each seems to assist in dispatching interlopers from the Girapur race. A mystery I hope will be discovered if we get a proper visit to the plane. The Dawn Chaser Pilgrims are symbolic of Muraganda's progress and promise. They are members of a religious monotheistic order that venerates the dawning sun as source of enlightenment and banisher of darkness. They view the ritualism and shamanism that rule much of Muraganda with disdain, as they spurn the antiquated orders of the Saurid autocracy and Fang Druids. The Dawn Chasers are nomads that follow the rising sun along ancient roads, carrying with them altars and solar effigies. They hold camp in 2 locations, the summer and winter cities. All other time is spent traveling. They follow the bizarre construct known as Sundial in hopes that it will lead them to enlightenment. The Tilu Set are a confederation of 5 human tribes whose ancestors were long ago forced to leave the magic-torn kingdom of Tilu and sustain themselves through raid and pillage. As such, the Tilu Set harbor a deep resentment towards anything magical, and ruthlessly suppress it through their only sanctioned form of magic, which nullifies all others. Forced to endure a Spartan existence in the harsh borderlands between the Saurid autocracy and the ruins of Tilu, the Tilu Set are masters of military doctrine and consummate beast riders. They dwell within the bastion of Mon Tilu. Just as they shun magic, so too do the Tilu Set abhor Muraganda's oozes, believing them to be horrors that consume in an unstoppable march of destruction. Many other lesser factions or groups dwell in Muraganda's variegated wilds. Lay mages are obsessed with knowledge of the past. They wish to once again harness the power that the collapsed ancient civilization enjoyed. They embrace magic instead of fear it, and erect attunement towers near sites of chaotic leyline eruptions to experiment on the plane's mana. These sorcerers seek to wield the raw power pulsing within the plane. Scar Witches are territorial, dangerous wraiths so named because they haunt the brackish craters of Galadac's Scar, the cold waste that was site of the first moonfall. Scar witches are specters of the past that greedily hold on to power from a forgotten age. They invoke rites to bring forth horrors known as dead gods that act as reservoirs of magical power from which the Scar witches can draw. These ghosts stalk the ruins of the world that was, but aren't the only danger in Galadac's Scar, as seen in the monstrous crocodile known as Calaxian. To a world of oral tradition and indiscernible glyphs, information is vital, and a technology that records it is priceless. The invention of paper vaulted the wandering scribes from an obscure band of historians to Muraganda's preeminent record keepers. They jealously guard their technology, however, and instead offer their services as mercenary scribes to the highest bidder. Kings and tyrants who wish to spread propaganda, merchants that must record transactions, and missionary priests seeking converts all benefit from the paper of the wandering scribes. As we can see, Muraganda is a dangerous place for those who call it home. To outsiders, it's lethal. Muraganda's first taste of extraplanar interaction came with the Phyrexian invasion of the multiverse. The plane's raw magic and empowered creatures represented great weapons the Phyrexians could turn to their cause. The invasion, however, galvanized Muraganda's world ooze, which rose to consume, convert, and render inert the Phyrexian contagion. So too did its dinosaurs and other primal beasts attack the Phyrexian threat head-on, savagely ripping through ranks of corrupted metal in Muraganda's defense. In light of the deadly invasion, the plane's peoples are naturally averse to outside influence. Though the Avishkari sent a delegation to the Saurid autocracy for rights to build part of its raceway on the plane, the other cultures never gave consent and see the Grand Prix as a hostile act from a foreign power. Muraganda's isolated independence is demonstrated in the fact that none of their delegation participate in the Aetherdrift race. In fact, Muraganda's stretch of track is perhaps the most dangerous because both nature and civilization begrudge its presence. Aetherdrift has given us a look at Muraganda, but only the tiniest slice of a plane whose depth is a vast store of untold adventures. What does the multiverse hold for the plane's future when we return to Muraganda? Only time will tell. Thanks so much for watching and listening to this video on the plane of Muraganda Explained. Let me know your thoughts on the dinosaurs, oozes, and peoples of Muraganda, as well as suggestions for future videos in the comments below. And if you're a fan of lore and storytelling, be sure to subscribe to the channel where content is uploaded frequently. I want to take a moment to thank all of my patrons over on Patreon. Your support means the world to me and helps the channel continue to improve. If you're interested in becoming a lore luminary for access to me, a great community, written scripts, and early video drops, head to patreon.com/thelorebrarians to learn more. Until next time, go forth and explore the lore.